Okay, so Hesher. Um, a disappointment. I love Joseph Gordon Levitt, and I've found this thing that he's in two kinds of indie films. Indie films, which are great, like 50-50 and 5 Days of Summer. But then there are these other indie films which are boring and pretentious and ones I don't really care for. And sadly, this is one of them. I didn't really care for Brick, didn't really care for Mysterious Skin, didn't really care for what was the other film he did? Oh, Manic. Yes, didn't care for Manic either, really, yeah. And I don't really care for this. It's sad to say. Lots of great people in it, hey. I mean, I love to see people I like in films, but that's the thing. If this movie didn't have people in it who are recognizable, it wouldn't have got made. It wouldn't have been finally released. I mean, this has gone straight to DVD. I mean, that just tells you straight away that something's wrong. That, well, the film we have is something that isn't really all that good. And watching it, I wasn't really surprised that it had problems and funding and it didn't get released at all because it's a disappointment. And watching it, what I found really annoying about it is it tries to be a really good film, but it keeps stopping and it won't do it. It's so eager for it to be a really good film that it just keeps on going and going at it. But then even more weird and stupid stuff happens, and it's just a disappointment from start to finish, pretty much. And I don't think it's a bad film. I don't think it's terrible, but it's not that good. You know, I'm in the middle. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's okay. And I think it's a bit sad in a way that a Joseph Gordon-Levitt film, yet again, is okay. You know, for the ones that, I mean, this sort of troubles me. There are these films he's in, like these, which aren't really that good, but still they get made and they get recognized. But this hasn't been made. Well, why can't the others just not get recognized? Because I don't really like these kinds of films he's in. I think they're boring. I mean, you know, there's no story and there's no real character and, well, character development, I'd rather say. Then what's the point? I mean, there is character development near the end for the boy, and there's a little bit of redemption at the end for the father, but there's not really a lot of character development for Hesher as a character, which is a bit of a disappointment. I mean, it's a great performance. It's a really, really good character, and he's played it really well. But I find it disappointing we don't even know anything about Hesher at all, apart from well, that he lost his left nut, and that he was in a van once, and some girls were doing some crazy sexual things, and then they all started fingering each other and getting off with each other, and then he starts jerking off to it. And that's about it to what we actually know about Hesher as a person, and I find that slightly just too bleak. And you know, I have nothing wrong with a bleak film. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of British films out here that are bleak and they're still entertaining. And you look at True Grit. I mean, that was a great film. You know, a great bleak American film, and it was really good. And this really does not cut the cake. It's too indie spirited for its own good. I think it's trying to go out to the indie audience, but I think it's failed. Sad to say. Because I don't think there's really a story here. I mean, 50-50 was great. I really liked that film, and I was so glad that I really liked it. I've been looking forward to it for so long. And this, I was looking forward to watching it, but not as much anticipation. But then when I did get around to see it, like today, it's just a bit of an aching disappointment. And I just can't believe it. It's just wow. You know, I mean, on the DVD cover, it's described as a comedy. I laughed about 3 or 4 times. It's not a comedy film. And what is this? This is like bad marketing. It's not a comedy film. Let's just get that across now. There's a lot of drama stuff going on, and it's about life and real life. And how does that equal comedy? Someone tell me, please. Tell me I'm wrong, because I'm not. I just, I love Joseph Gordon Levitt. I think he's fantastic. He's a great actor, but stop doing these films, please. It's. I'm not saying it's torturing your career or it's bad, but it's disappointing. And I just hate to say that a Joseph Gordon-Levitt film is disappointing. 50-50 wasn't disappointing. Why can't this film be 50-50? I just, it's so ridiculous. I like a good indie film. I love indie films. Like It's Kind of Funny Story and The Art of Getting By. Those are indie films, and they worked really well. This, just nothing really happens in this film until like the end, and then some ins and bouts and stuff with the boy and the kid who wants to kill him, and but it's too bleak. That's the problem I have with it. And even though it's too bleak, it knows it's too bleak. But then it tries to go up higher to what it is, and that doesn't work. And I found it really disappointing that Natalie Portman's character doesn't really get like a full rounded thing of who she is. All we know is she's apparently then a prostitute. She works at this place. But then if she's a prostitute, then how come she can't pay the rent? Wouldn't she just whore herself off and make loads of money so then she'd be okay? That doesn't make any sense. And why does Hesher care about this family? It wasn't, oh yes, was there some kind of thing where I decided, oh yes, like some leaflet to say, oh yes, help families who I usually wouldn't give a damn to some weirdo who's reckless and blah 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 coming along. Yeah, just come along. That doesn't make any sense. That's a big plot hole. Um, and I'm just really disappointed by this film. I know it's probably come across quite vividly now, but you know, I love a good film. I really do, and this is just adequate. And it pains me that it's adequate. I mean, it pained me a lot more if it was awful, but it pains me quite a bit that it's adequate. I think these people deserve a better film. Natalie Portman was in Black Swan, and then you go to this. It's not good enough. And I'm not saying, it's not good enough. I'm not saying I'm angry at her. I'm angry, kind of angry, at the people who made this film. It's kind of trying to be artistic with the whole thing of Hesher doing all these things and doing the fuck you thing with the finger. But it doesn't really add up to much in the end, which is disappointing. You know, I've watched lots of films, and there are terrible ones, there are okay ones, there are good ones, and there are really, really good ones. This film should have been a really good film, and it's not. It's just okay, and there's a whole thing of it that they try to sort of make up for there's nothing really going on at the end. And I'm sorry, but that doesn't work. You can't just make up for your, not bad doings, but wrongdoings. I just, I think this film should have had a lot more going for it. I think there's a lot wrong with it. I don't think there's a lot like bad about it. I just think that there's something there that just doesn't work. It's completely sort of all over the place, and I just couldn't really tell if they're trying to do the film where Hesher's, sort of figuring out with his life what he wants to do and his family. Like, what happened to his family? Is he just some outcast? And he just, obviously, that's why he drives around in his big van and everything? I mean, what happened to that? And there's a whole mention about that he went to prison, but then that doesn't go anywhere. Like what happened before when he went to prison? Did he have a family? No, nothing like that happens. And what about the stuff with the family? Why couldn't there have been more stuff about the family, like explained about the mother and stuff? Just at that bit at the end, the flashback where she dies and stuff. I don't think it's enough to do that. And another thing is 50-50 had the sort of balance of, there was character stuff and there was emotional stuff going on, and it was funny as well. I think I cried more than laughed, but I still laughed quite a lot. But then this, you just know. I mean, I giggled a couple of times because Hesher does say some quite funny things. Even though he's not a very nice character, very nice person, he's funny. The stuff that he says and the way he reacts to people, I thought that was good, and I laughed a couple of times. And it's a great performance, but it's a great performance in a messy film. And that annoys me. Because, when you see a really good performance in a messy film, it's just, It's just disappointing because I've seen films like take for example some Uma Thurman films where the film's not really that great, but then she's great in it. Like Sweet and Lowdown. It's an okay film, very flawed, but she's really good in it. And I don't think that film annoyed me as much as this one. I know maybe it's not the best example to bring up now, but this film annoys me. That he's so good in this film, his performance, and the film's not really anything to write home about. It's the kind of movie that could have been like a TV episode that sort of had about 4 or 5 episodes attached to it. They were 20 minutes long. I mean, literally, that is it. It doesn't have the wings to be a feature film. And at the start of it, I was like, well, it's not so bad. But then I was like, I don't really like this film. It's just kind of, not going with me. And then for the rest of the film, I was like, oh. And there are things the characters do in this film that are disappointing and like, what the hell? This doesn't make any sense. So, to conclude, it's not a great film. Don't expect anything amazing. I don't understand why this film's been released now. Because after all this now, it's released and then people will go watch it. And I don't really think it's a film that a lot of people want to see. Because it's disappointing. I don't think there's really anything there. It's like, when you have something, like a bunch of things locked away, like in a closet or something, and then you never get to sort of sort it out and sort of make it what you want it to be and make it all nice and it all comes together. That is what this film is. You never actually get around to clean up that closet. It's still a mess. It's a mess. And I'm not saying it's a mess and it's terrible, but it's messy. Like it's got something just not right about it. And I never said that about 50-50. I mean, I love 50-50. That's a great film. And Found It Summer's a great film. Why isn't this a great film? I think he should stop being in films that don't have substance like this. This does not have any substance. It tries to have some substance, but it doesn't work. And I don't know. Perhaps he wants to try something different with these films, but it doesn't really do anything for me. And I love watching him. He's always great, but make some better films. I mean, unless you want to keep on making these, then I hope the films are better. But from what I've seen, it seems like this is going to carry on, maybe. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Don't get the wrong idea. I just don't think he should be associated with this because I think he's a good actor and he's had a good career. Inception and Finding Summer and you know 50-50, of course. But I don't think this career should be really involved with that. It just doesn't really make any sense to sort of have something that's really good and then just this stuff, which is all kind of pretentious and a bit boring and frustrating and nothing really much to say about, really. But even though I've gone for almost 14 minutes.